Hi there, it's September. There are a few red leaves on maple and sumac trees. It's September. But even though it's September and starting to get a little cooler, my kitchen is still full of fruit flies. You know, those teeny weeny little flies that swarm around the peaches and the bananas that are starting to go and the compost container and oh, I they seem to get really bad in peach season, but I've had them for a month, I think, in my kitchen, and I do everything that I can. I have a little egg cup with vinegar that they like to snoop around and drown in, and I have little yellow stickies on a little stick in a vase that I put near the peaches, and they stick to that. And I spray the compost. I empty the compost every day, and I spray it with soap and water, and makes it clean. And insects don't like soap and water, but there's still so many fruit flies. I've had to quit growing my own sprouts because they like to hang around that moist green area, and I didn't like the idea of so many flies around something I was going to eat. I'll be glad when they're gone. However, fruit flies have their own life. They have a place in the ecosystem. You see them outside. It's just in my kitchen. But when I see fruit flies, I'm also reminded of an experiment that we did in high school biology. I think I was in grade 10. And the teacher gave us a little vial, a little plastic thing about this big with a tight-fitting lid. Maybe had air holes in it. And it had a gooey, sugary glob in the bottom. And each of us got 2 fruit flies. And the first day, there were 2 fruit flies. And then 2 days later, there were 6 fruit flies. Then there were a dozen fruit flies. And then there were 30 fruit flies. And then there were 15. And then there were 8. And the next day, there were none. The thing is, there was only so much sugary goop in that little container. And the fruit flies couldn't go anywhere else to get food. And so at first there was lots of food for 2, and there was lots of food for 6, and there was even lots of food for 12. But when there were 30, they ate it all up. And then there was nothing left for them to eat. And they were gone. Now, in my kitchen, we add to the compost container every day. And so there's more food for the fruit flies every day. And every day when I take the compost out to the outside compost roller thingy that makes it into dirt, the fruit flies come pouring out of that, and I put more food in, and they go back in, and they're just fine. But what that little experiment showed me was that sometimes there isn't enough food. And when we don't look after an environment for critters so that there's enough food, they're going to suffer, because food doesn't come from thin air. So I don't like the fruit flies in my kitchen. But they did teach me a lesson, which is that we have to pay attention to what feeds all of the creatures around us. We have to make sure that the milkweed is there for the monarch caterpillars, because milkweed is the only thing they'll eat. We have to make sure that the worms are there for the robins, because that's what robins like to eat. We have to make sure the mosquitoes are there for the swallows, because swallows love to swoop and eat mosquitoes. So do bats. That balance of creation is important to make sure that there is what every one of us needs in the world so that we can thrive, so that we can be healthy and strong. And that's our job in creation, to look after our part of the world and do what we can to make sure that the creatures who are our responsibility do well. And that's something that you folks can help with around the place and the land that you live. And it's something that we can all do together to make sure that from the Arctic to the Amazon to the Antarctic, the environment is good for creatures to thrive. So, you have a good week, the first full week of September, and we'll talk soon.